401k advisors want to build a scalable practice, but aren't always sure what to do next. Welcome to Outcomes, the podcast designed to help advisors think, make decisions, and cast a vision to create a business for the future. Here's your host, Ross Marino, financial planner, author, speaker, and CEO of Advisor2X.
Welcome to Outcomes, the podcast. Today, we are joined by my friend Alan Gross, president of GSM Marketing. Good morning, Alan.
Morning, Ross. It's good to be with you.
So glad you're here today. So a lot has changed. We're still in the pandemic, and the interactions between myself and my clients, between you and your clients, it is certainly different. And as we were just chatting, you made the comment that we're not even talking about the new normal. We're actually just going to talk about now because this is different. So how about you just dive right in and give us some insight into the interactions we're having with clients and what's going on right now?
Well, sure. You know, we've said for a long time, it's not lead gen, it's relationship gen. It means we're always focused on how do we deliver a quality relationship? How do we tell our story in a way that says there's something that we think that is important for you to hear? At the end of the day, we're all problem solvers. We have services and products and we're trying to connect them. But the reality is we do best when we help other people understand. We understand your problems. These are solutions to these problems. This is what we think you should do. But importantly, this is why we think you should do it with us. So the new normal, or the place where we are today says, okay, I don't have the opportunity to do that in the boardroom. I don't get to travel across the country and do it face to face. I don't get to shake hands the way I did, where most folks we've always known said, I'm powerful if you put me in front of people. I may not be great, in other mechanisms, but you give me a one-on-one, I will kill it. I will rock it. I've always seen that. Most people have never told us that they built their practices on the strength of lead gen machines and funnels and so on. They said, we're relationship based. We get it. We know how to deliver that. But what happens today is I don't have the opportunity to do that in person. I have to be able to do it online. I have to do it differently.
I wonder if so much of what we feel, and I do this as well, our confidence when we're sitting with someone, we may think it's our understanding of them and then what we say, but maybe it's more of them picking up our body language and the signals that they receive and vice versa. So that interaction is probably way beyond what I understand. But now, since we can't do that face-to-face, even though you could add video, a lot of that's going to disappear. So do you think that's part of the problem?
Oh, of course it is. From the time we're babies, we are cued into the interaction of eye contact, of smiles, of body language. Without understanding the language of it, we react to it. We've always understood these things intrinsically, and we deliver those things when we're in person. We have that comfort. The idea of being able to take that and bring it online is something that, frankly, so many firms, so many brands struggle with because they're comfortable talking about the products they have, the services they have, the features of those services, the benefits of those services in pretty traditional ways, which are all important in some fashion of due diligence, but it never gets to the heart of, but do you understand my problems? And even if you do, what is it in this answer that tells me I should be doing this with you? And I do think that your web presence has always been a place where you had to understand that was in play, right? That it was always a complement. There was the online and offline component of how you deliver your story. And as we think about what does it mean today to clarify and simplify towards that your web is a huge opportunity to do that. And I do think that video, if you use it authentically, and if you use it with a sense of purpose to say, it's not just an infomercial. This is an opportunity to talk about how we deliver on that promise, can be very persuasive.
You just caught my attention when you said infomercial, because as you were speaking, I was, of course, listening and I was fully present because that's me, right? I'm there. So I drifted a little bit and I thought about infomercial and what you sparked was the idea that if I don't have that presence with someone where I'm reading them and they're reading me, I wonder if my tendency is going to be to go more towards an infomercial since I can't connect with you as well, or I don't think I can connect with you as well. I may pivot a little more to, let me tell you how awesome I am and what I do. But I think that's probably the exact opposite because I'm losing that face-to-face live, and now I have to switch to more digital and video. I've got to get away from the infographic, and then I have to pivot somewhere else. So do you think that's instinctive for people? Or is that just going to be a challenge?
Well, there is certainly a comfort to saying, hey, we have this process. We go through these steps. There's a sense of this structure that we can assert. And the web can be very good for doing that. And I think you're right. In some moments, we default back to those kinds of things. If you're with me, sitting if it's one-on-one over a desk or at a table or in a conference room, it may be a natural thing to say, tell me about your situation. Where are you? You know? What have you done to this point? What do you need to do going forward? What are you facing? All the things that you know are inbound information that you know. I can't begin to offer you a recommendation, a strategy, a path until I know these things. So if we don't have the opportunity and it's a one-way, I may just tell you, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can do that for you, hoping that you discover in one of those, I need this. A lot of people don't know what they need. Or they think they do, but they're not right. We discover this all the time. You know, as a professional, you've spent an entire career listening to people tell you what they think they know. Very often, you know where it comes from, but your job is to actually listen past that to understand that. The opportunity it says for your website, it's not necessarily to provide all the answers. It's maybe to ask all the right questions. And that's something I don't see a lot of.
I think that's going to be a challenge for all of us, because you just described the interaction between myself and a prospect or myself and a client. We can go into discovery, into Q&A. That's what we do, and we love that. And we're insightful, and they say things, and we don't always give the same answer because we're not always talking to the same person. And we're able to customize our response. And really, it's like this massive algorithm in our head or decision tree where all of a sudden we can go off in different directions. But on the website, that's a little bit harder. And I know there's ClickFunnels and there's ways to do that. But when you come in digitally to a website, now I have to start general enough to connect with you. But you just called it where you said they have a problem. So how do you come up with, and I'm going to pivot to StoryBrand because I know you're working on that. How do you come up with a process to start general enough where enough of the people that are your target market can follow along and say, you know what, I do have that problem. Can you help me solve it? How do we do that on a website?
That's a good question. I am a StoryBrand certified guide, and it's a hugely important way of looking at your message. For me, I've been writing and speaking, for such a long time. I discovered with StoryBrand that it was a better way of creating structure and process to my own brain and to be able to think about these things. The notion is...
Actually, you know what? Let me interrupt, because there's people listening. They may have never heard of StoryBrand. You and I have talked about it over and over, and you're certified. So let's just go back to the beginning of StoryBrand. Can you give us a little bit of history on how you approach StoryBrand, and then what is StoryBrand and why? I know you've told me this. After 30 years of doing this, you said this stuff is brilliant. So can you give us a basis for that?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. I have been working with advisors, record keepers, TPAs, and other investment professionals for a long, long time. And we're all comfortable in our jargon. That maybe the most difficult thing we have to do is translate to plain English what it is we do. But more important than that, it's not about what we do, it's what problems we solve for others. They don't understand what we do. They don't want to have a glossary on our website to translate to English all the terms and code regs and all the things that frankly they don't get and that they don't want to get. They just want to understand, do you understand what I need, and can you help me? StoryBrand is a nationally certified program for business professionals and marketers and others to understand the mechanics of breaking it down in a way that says, it's not about you. The story's never, ever about you. It's about them. This isn't about what we can do and how we can do it and so on. It's very much about, we understand, and this is your story, and we can be helpful. We can be your guide in creating the success you want. So it's a way of looking at it. It's a way of structuring your thinking and your writing and your sense of clarity and simplicity, because at the end of the day, I don't have 40 minutes to get my message across to you. People have very limited expectations as far as how much they want to read or watch or experience, especially on the first blush, meaning when they first arrive. Call it the first date, that first impression, right? I may take a deeper dive if I think I like what I'm hearing and you're connecting with me and I feel like you're relevant to what I'm trying to do. But you've got to get that across really fast and really clearly. If you can separate from the pack immediately, because the vast majority of your very competent competitors are offering similar sounding products and services, have similar sounding credentials and so on, but they're not speaking this way. And that is in fact an opportunity to do this. So what StoryBrand says is make it clear at the end of the day, make it really clear and make it really simple. Really, that's really what this is about, is make those two things happen. And it's easier said than done sometimes, but it really gets to the heart of knowing why are they coming? Why are they here? And what do you need to tell them right up front about what this means? Right?
Yeah, and that's the first step or two of the 7-step process. I reviewed it right before we jumped on here because I wanted to make sure I had them top of mind. And the first 2 steps are, who's the character of the story? That's your prospect, who you want to be a client. And then what is their problem? So it comes back to, first you have to identify who the character is that you're trying to reach. And I think part of the time, the reason I may go into, let me tell you all the ways I'm smart and competent and understand what I'm doing, is maybe I didn't define exactly who I need to speak with. So can you talk about the importance of understanding who the character is in the StoryBrand story, who your prospect is, and how to really zero in on this is who I need to connect with?
That's a really good question. And you know what, we a lot of us struggle because we think we have, and we do, we have multiple audiences. I serve individuals, I serve families, I serve corporations, I serve nonprofits. I have a number of different constituent audiences, and they may have different needs, and they do. By the same token, I may want to talk to clients, I may want to talk to prospects, and I may want to talk to industry partners on our website. Talk about confusing to someone coming here for the first time. They don't have any idea if they're in the right place. You have to make very important, if not foundational, decisions about who are you talking to. Because if you're trying to talk to everybody, you're talking to nobody, right? So if the idea is my website is primarily a vehicle for growth, growth means new clients. I have to talk to someone who does not know us, who's not a current client. And we have to make a decision about, to your really good point in your question, Ross, is who are they and what are their questions? What are their needs? What are their problems, right? Well, maybe I can't solve all of them on page 1, but I'm going to speak to the ones that I think represent the biggest opportunity set for us to talk to. There may be places for current clients to go. There may be places for industry partners to go. And I may need to have a different website for each of them rather than try to stuff them all under one homepage, which doesn't actually work. Because it's all about making really clear you're in the right place and here's what we want you to do next.
And that's so hard for me, Alan. I know I'm on year 32 now as an advisor, and it may be a little bit easier now for me to say, here's my character and really define a niche of here's who I work with. But if you go back 15, 20, 25 years, it's scary because you will work with many different types of people. We all know niche marketing is the way to go. We've heard it enough from all the smart people out there. I get it. I just know that I may not have enough prospects for that niche right now. And if I don't grow my business, I won't be in a niche 5 years from now. I'll be in another industry. And I have to balance that fear. And it's not easy. We've all done it growing up over time. So is there a way to be broad enough where you can bring in enough people and not completely sell out to a niche? Or let me say this differently. I know my tendency is going to be, I have to stay a little more broad, Alan, because I need new clients when I'm younger. You're the professional, you understand this, and you're thinking you have got to define your niche. How do you work with me and help me get closer to where I know I need to be and you know I need to be, but it's just going to be hard?
It is such a good question, Ross. And the word niche itself is subject to some interpretation, right? It's a subjective term. How wide or how narrow is a niche, right? You could say, I'm in financial services, that's a niche. I'm in wealth management, that's a niche. I'm in planning, that's a niche. I'm in transition, I'm a transitionist, that's a niche. I can be a functional, I can live in a functional niche, or I can have clients. I have small client niche, micro client niche, I can have mid-sized client niche, I can have large client niche, I can have corporate niche. These are all different ways of answering that question. I think the answer is, in some way, is to be pragmatic here. We don't want to be shotgun. We don't want to try to be all things to all people. That's usually a recipe for missing the mark, because it's too broad is always the wrong answer. You can also be too focused. You can be micro niche, that you speak with laser precision to an audience which is perfect, but too small to sustain you in terms of growth, right? All 7 of those prospects heard you clearly. That just wasn't enough. If the answer is the heart of what you do has these kinds of, not just core competencies, but solves these kinds of problems, and they're relevant to a somewhat broader set of folks, then they'll see themselves in the story if you're still speaking to the kinds of problems they have, as opposed to saying, we solve these problems for small business or mom and pops, or we solve this problem for bigger companies. If we say we solve these problems and you have that problem, you'll see yourself at whatever size you are.
I know that when we're working with clients and prospects, it's sometimes intuitive for us to see how similar they are and what they need. They don't necessarily get that. So they may think my situation is unique. I guess it's kind of like a financial advisor saying, well, I do things differently, and we laugh. No, I don't. So I may think I am so unique in what I do, but man, I got a process, and it isn't much different than other financial planners out there working with similar clients. So we're working with people who really think they're unique. So I guess we have to figure out a way to connect with them to make sure they know we understand them and they have problems that are unique to them. However, their situation may be unique. They are the common problems of making decision and what's next. So do you go through with the websites of doing click funnels and Q&A and take them different directions? How do you design websites to maybe take people down a path where they can find out that you actually know specifically the types of problems they're working with?
We don't use the term click funnel. We don't do them typically. They tend to be associated with, most often, campaigns that are transactional in nature, right? It's I'm going to tell you why you want to buy this, give you 7 reasons to buy this, and then I'm going to tell you to buy it and buy it and buy it on that page. That tends to be where those are. That's the last thing in the world we want to do, is suggest to someone they're getting sold. That's the extreme end of infomercial land, where a lot of folks live and a lot of people make a lot of money. But if you're relationship based, you know that you do what you have to do to earn the relationship, because yes, you'll earn your fees, but that the relationship is when that stream of revenue that you will earn begins, and that sense of having recurring revenue and that growth over time is what you are looking towards, not a transactional moment per se. The website itself says, I have a job. Marketing, to me, I've always said marketing sets the table for sales. And I say that in the classic sense, marketing and sales. I personally, Ross, I would love it if the word sales evaporated from our industry, that there was no such thing as 401k sales or wealth management, sales. Yes, we all need revenue. We all have to keep the lights on, and we should get paid for what we do. But sales is the wrong word. It's consulting, and it's helping people find the solutions that they need. We know that. What marketing does in setting the table says, what is the action you want people to take? How do you want them to feel? And what is it you want them to do? That's the job of your website. And that's the question to ask. It comes before colors and fonts and images and words. It's what is it you want them to feel? And what is it you want them to do? If the answer is I want them to feel inspired, or I want them to feel acknowledged and understood, or I want them to feel hopeful, or I want them to feel fearful that if they don't do this, they're in the wrong place. How do I want them to feel? What do I want them to do? What's the action? You're on this website, you came to this page. What is it I want you to do? Is it ask for analysis? Is it request a meeting? Schedule a consultation? That's the call to action I want to know up front, because I cannot tell you how many websites that I see that literally don't have a call to action. And if you don't tell people what you want them to do, they tend not to do anything. And by the way, your phone number in the corner and a contact number isn't a call to action. It's just info in the corner.
I was just getting ready to ask you the next question, and I think you just answered it. So let's unpack that. What I was going to ask is, going to ask what I'm asking now is, when you're working with clients, what is it something that the majority of them seem to struggle with? Would you say it's the call to action, or would you pivot and say it's something else? But what seems to be a common struggle that we have when we're working with someone who understands marketing and digital and websites?
Well, at the core, too many people don't understand what the opportunity is. And that is, they're accustomed to talking about what they do every day. Fine. But that doesn't tell anybody who's looking for a solution provider why they should choose you. It's essential to make clear why they should not just take a course of action, but why they should do it with you. From there, the call to action is, and here's the first step to take from there, right? That's where video can be so powerful and so persuasive if you do it well. That's why a website that's well designed can actually be light, not heavy, because it's not about overwhelming people. It's about creating the instant understanding that you're in the right place, that we get this, we get you, and here's what to do next. Because they don't see that on websites. If you go across this industry and you sample dozens or hundreds of sites, you see a lot of the same kinds of things, the expressions of very competent individuals and firms who talk about most of the same things, most of the same way, which is okay, but it'll never separate you. If your intention is to differentiate and is to say, this is why we become a go-to expert, a go-to partner, that's not enough. You've got to clarify and you've got to simplify that message for those who frankly don't live where we live every day.
Yeah, and I think with the video, because you've been big on that for a while, and I have to say, I was slow to get video. Once podcasts became more popular and we started seeing the video recordings, and then once I did Zoom meetings myself, more than just a couple, but did them consistently, I become the true believer, so I get it. So I wonder if a few years from now, as our industry progresses, maybe there's a lot more face-to-face. There will be a lot more face-to-face once people feel safer. But do you think that because of the time we're in right now, people are adopting more technology, they're spending more time using video, so maybe going forward from the consumer standpoint where they want to kick the tires, they want to see the videos where it isn't just a bonus where you get to tell me, hey, Ross, you got to have video on your site. It's going to differentiate you. And I say, well, that's great, but I have 7 appointments this week and I've got 13 prospects and yada, yada, and I'm doing great. I wonder if that's going to be the preferred way for typical consumers or prospects to go to the website and not just read, but actually see the video so they can see me and try to get a feel for me. Do you think that's changing the consumer behavior as well?
I'll see you're changing and I'll raise you. They're already there. They've been there. This is where we've been behind them. That is, the world has already embraced video long before we decided we were okay with getting in front of a camera, okay? They would rather watch than read. They would rather spend time that way. They do every day. It's on YouTube, it's on Facebook, it's on Instagram, it's everywhere. And more content goes up by video than any other mechanism every hour of every day. The stats are crazy. It's also true that if you want to show up on search, the most powerful asset you can have on your website is video. It ranks higher than text. And if you happen to have it in a way that Google is going to appreciate it, then it's going to be perceived as more valuable and more relevant. They prefer it.
Let me interrupt you there, because that's something I don't think I completely understand. So with the search engines, all things or most things being equal, the video content that's being uploaded is going to rank higher and to get me more attraction than if I was just adding blog or written word on there?
True. And if you take the video and you take the transcript of it and you put it on the page, then you have the written version for the person who'd rather read it than watch it. Because I don't mean one or the other. There are some people who would rather watch than read. There are some people that rather read. The search engine bots themselves absolutely will prioritize video. And It's a matter of how you use it and how relevant your video is, but it has the capacity. You know that if you spent 3 paragraphs writing about this is who I am, this is where I come from, this is what drives my passion, people will read it and through their own eyes and their own life experience read or not read any emotion into that. You deliver that same couple of words, same 1 minute or 90 seconds to a camera, I'm seeing you. I mean, literally seeing you just as I am right now. That is a massively more compelling, more personal, more human way of experiencing information. We know this. We've heard this our whole lives. People remember more. They appreciate more. They are connected more to information that they see visually and through video. They're more likely to share it. They're more likely to remember it. They're more likely to react to it. And at the end of the day, that's why we're doing these things. It's not just to get the information out. I want you to talk to me. I want you to request the meeting. I also want you to know how much I care or what we do here. And I think that I can write those words on a page. You're never going to hear them as powerfully and as persuasively as me delivering them to you this way. So there are evergreen pieces that, yes, we're busy, but there's some pieces that are just foundational. It talks about who we are, where we come from, and what we think about this role, about clients and about their stories. Those are powerful. Whether you spend time to do a commentary or a podcast or just things that may have a short shelf life, but also connect in a really direct way to your audience of prospects and clients, whether that's your newsletter or otherwise, is also a thing. And maybe that's just a question of production. That is, we're doing this via podcast from our desks. We're not going to studios per se to do this. But we're still trying to do it in a way that expresses a quality and an intention and a level of professionalism that we hope others will appreciate. Same thing is what we would advise every day in terms of adding that to your marketing mix.
So I wonder if the About Us page on websites is going to be transformed, because I read the paragraphs that people write, and this is what I love to do, and you'll find me on the weekend doing that, and I'll be playing pickleball with my daughter, or I'll be running or doing a triathlon. That part's not true, but the pickleball is. I wonder if those are going to be replaced with the video in the future. What if we took everybody on the team and instead of just had them write this little bio, why not give them 60 seconds to say, why do you think what you do here matters? Or why does our business matter? What is the effect? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to people? Just give them a few different questions. Wouldn't that be so much more powerful than that paragraph that says, I like long walks on the beach and my dog Fluffy?
That's the last paragraph, because the first 2 paragraphs are your bio of all your credentials that nobody understands. All the committees that you're on that nobody understands, all the journals you've written for that they don't understand, right? Which is all our way of saying, yes, we're serious. We're very serious people here. Your bio's on LinkedIn. Yes. There's the picture. On our website, we have photographs of our team, but if you hover over them, you get an alt picture. It is not the grayscale versus color. It's you get this picture on the front. If you roll over mine, you see me playing a guitar, right? Every one of us has a different picture based upon who we are and what we love to do. That's one way of just having some fun with this. And I would tell you that maybe 5 or 10 years from now, what you just said is just everybody's website, meaning the About page isn't a story. You go to LinkedIn to see our bio, but here's 30 seconds of who I am, Just when I say get to know Ross, it isn't read the bio, it's get to know Ross. Spend 30 seconds actually saying hello. To me, that's a wonderful way of thinking. People actually not just appreciate that, they're likely to spend more time on it. And if you have several on the page, curiosity says, if someone liked the first one, they may actually click on the second one just to see what their video did. And what was his story and what's her story. And the fact is, now they just met the whole team. They didn't mean to. They didn't come to that page because they wanted to watch all of them. But the chances are, if you do it in a way that's kind of human and compelling and maybe even funny, it's real, you're going to get a different experience. To me, that may be more about why they request the meeting than everything on your homepage about all the services you provide and all the problems you can solve. You sound like people that are approachable. You look like people I can talk to. And at the end of the day, maybe that's our challenge, is saying, you can talk to me, right? Because they can be intimidated by the topic. They can be intimidated by what they don't know. They can be intimidated by your credentials. It may look like, wow, they do this for big companies and other kinds of things. I don't even understand half the words they use here. Maybe the answer is, maybe this isn't right for me. But if I hear you talk for a few moments, I say, wow, he's a cool guy. I think I can talk to him. That may be everything in terms of getting them to take the next step. And that's a win.
It's a win. And I'm going to be redoing some of my digital and rolling out some different website upgrades. And I'm just listening to you. It just convinced me that everybody has to have a video on the website. It can't just be the lead advisor or the main person, because that creates hierarchical, is that the word? Type of feeling with people. And that's not what you want. You want them to hear from everybody. And I think you're right. You're not going to just watch one video. You're going to watch every single person from the team, because now you want to connect. You want to feel those people, and you want to understand why they do what they do. I think that's definitely a differentiator. So that's something that not just the About Us page, but maybe there needs to be more video from everybody on the team talking about something that is relevant to that person who says, I'm a character, I'm the prospect, I'm looking at my notes here, I have a problem. This is a story brand, right? And we can be your guide. Everybody can tell that story, and you can do it with video. And I think that would work really well. So now that we've talked a lot about video and digital, how about we do some shout outs? So let me know some technologies, some companies, maybe some people you're working with that you think they get it, they're doing good work. What's going on right now that you like?
You know what? I'm a huge admirer of folks who are innovating, but innovating for a purpose. And there are many out there. A few years ago, I started a group called Committed to Outcomes, because the notion is so many of us are very good about talking about what it is we're doing, but we often forget as an industry to talk about why all of us are here. The word outcomes has become somewhat more common, but it's still missing. It's still absent, Ross, from most websites in this entire industry. We talk about what is it, start a retirement plan or start a wealth plan, but we're always thinking about, what does success look like? Success isn't participation. Success isn't, contributions. Success is helping people achieve the goals that they have, and that's outcomes. Committed to Outcomes is a way of just talking about it together without it being my brand versus your brand, that we could do things that way. One company that I have had the opportunity to really get to know very well, that's really innovating on that path, is iJoin. They are creating really powerful opportunities that connect record keepers and advisors and employers to outcomes by creating goal-based retirement plan participant experiences with the kinds of engagement and campaign and metrics that think about success metrics as opposed to traditional benchmarks.
One final question. So if you had a magic wand, and I have one here, and according to my daughters, it's real. So it works. It's Disney certified and approved. If you could wave this, Alan, and fix one problem, what would you fix?
Wow. If I could fix one problem, industry or not?
Let's go not.
Not.
And it can't be the virus. You're not getting off easy.
Can't get off the virus. If I could fix one problem, it would be education. Because I think that we're living at a time where people are disagreeing, but I'm happy to have disagreements about should we go left or right based upon a common framework of understanding what reality is, what facts are, and what science is, and a number of things that matter. I'm okay with people that disagree with what they think our priorities should be, where we should spend our budgets and where we should spend our time. But foundationally and fundamentally, we have to agree on where we came from, what our history is, what our challenges are, what the realities of our needs are, and that is education. And I think that if I could change one thing, is that we were all educated on these things and that we understood it, and then argue from there how to take it forward, because I have confidence that whatever comes from that would be successful.
Great finish. Alan, thank you so much for being on the podcast, which, as you know, is called Outcomes. Glad you're here today.
Thanks so much, Ross. It's always really fun to talk.
Thank you for listening to Outcomes. Subscribe now to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Advisor 2X. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service providers with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.